This episode of Not Another Mummy podcast is brought to you by Gymmondo. I don't know about you, but between children, daily commitments and life admin, finding the time for working out is no walk in the park. What's more, gyms can be intimidating and they just don't work for everyone. So if gyms aren't your cup of tea, join the growing list of people cancelling their gym memberships in favour of working out at home with Gymmondo. Gymmondo is an online fitness and well-being platform with hundreds of 20 to 30 minute workouts and training programs ranging from HIIT and yoga to dance and meditation, plus over 1,000 healthy recipes. Aside from the freedom and flexibility Gymmondo offers, exercising at home is fun, saves you money, fits perfectly into your lifestyle, and helps you stick at your fitness goals. So start a 14-day free trial and save 50% on your annual membership by visiting gymmondo.com, that's GYMONDO.com, and entering the code MummyPodcast. Welcome back to Not Another Mummy podcast with me, Alison Perry. Back when COVID first hit the UK and we went into lockdown with schools closing and parents panicking about how they were going to juggle everything. Do you remember that? Back then, my guest today stepped in and along with Joe Wicks, helped save the nation's sanity. Rob Biddulph started a regular online drawing lesson for kids, Draw with Rob, keeping children busy and happy at a time when it was most needed. A dad of 3 himself, Rob is the author and illustrator of brilliant picture books for younger kids like Blown Away and Odd Dog Out, and his new chapter book for older readers, Peanut Jones and the Illustrated City. Rob talks to me today about parenting teens and why he still reads to his kids even though they're older. We talk about father-daughter bonding and we chat about what it's like to have Tom Hardy read one of your books on CBeebies Bedtime Stories. I mean, no biggie, it's just Tom Hardy. Rob, a warm welcome to the podcast. We are big fans of your books in this house, so this is a very exciting day for me.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's lovely to talk to you.
I actually asked my 11-year-old at dinner last night, I said, I'm interviewing Rob Biddulph tomorrow. Do you have any questions for him? And she said, can you ask him his thoughts on The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas? Because then I can just hand that in as my English homework. And I was like, don't quite think you've got the point of asking him a question.
I'll tell you what, I'll knock out 1,000 words and I'll email it over to you afterwards. How about that? Yeah?
That'd be great. Yeah. As long as it's here by Monday,
yeah, that's fine.
That'd be fab.
Yeah.
But tell us about your family setup at home, because you're a dad in a blended family, as they call it these days, aren't you?
I am, yeah. So we have 3 daughters. Ella, who is the oldest, who is no longer at home because she's nearly 25, believe it or not, is my
25?
I know. Tell me about it. It's terrifying, isn't it? It's terrifying.
Actual grown-up.
Proper grown-up. Been away to uni, come back for a couple of years, and now finally has gone out and, living with a boyfriend and has got a job and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, proper grown up.
Yeah.
And she's my stepdaughter, but I've known her since she was, 2 or something. So, I've been around pretty much for her whole life in one form or another. And then I have Kitty, who is 17 this summer, and Poppy, who is just turned 13. So yeah, it's a busy household, and of course Ringo the dog, who's sitting behind me at the moment. Hopefully he'll keep quiet for the duration of the podcast. But so it's a blended family. But you know what? I kind of I've always treated Ella in exactly the same way as my other daughters too. As far as I'm concerned, she's just. I always say I've got 3 daughters. I don't ever say, I've got 2 daughters, stepdaughter. It's kind of all, as you say, it kind of all blends together. And she's got a really good relationship with her dad as well. So it all works. It's all worked really well over the years. I mean, there's been a few. Her dad, her family, we live in North London. They live out in near Reading. So there was a lot of ferrying around in the early days. Access wise and all that kind of thing. But it's worked out. It's all worked really well, and she's a lovely, well-balanced and happy person, so hopefully that means that we've done a good job.
That's the goal, isn't it?
That's the goal.
That's it.
That's what it's all about.
But you've got 2 teenage girls at home.
Yes.
what pearls of wisdom can you pass on? Because I think a lot of people who are listening will have younger children. And, you know, you're right in the thick of it. You're in the teenage years, like hormones and, you know, them, I guess, discovering themselves as people, which we all know that's quite a tricky time, isn't it?
It is a tricky time. We're, you know, touch wood, we've had a fairly easy ride with all three girls, actually. They seem to... They don't seem to go through a lot of the angst that lots of our friends, teenagers, have kind of been through. Don't get me wrong, they have their moments, but it's fine. You know, I actually, you said I was in the thick of it. I think, you know, you're in the thick of it, as far as I can say. Whether, you know,
thank you.
You really are. It's much, you know, it gets, in my opinion, it gets quite a lot easier in lots of ways. You know, they're their own people. They're much more self-sufficient, and, you know, in fact, you know what, I do miss the days. I miss the days when, you know, they need you. I've got my Ringo, my dog, who I mentioned earlier. I think we didn't do this consciously, but I think we got the dog a couple of years ago because we wanted somebody to need us. Because the girls, they just don't really, you know, it's fine. They certainly want us to cook their dinner and give them a lift to, you know, their ballet class or whatever it is. But apart from that, it's kind of, I miss the days when, you know, all they want to do is kind of put on a show in the living room, or, you know, make rock cakes with us every single day of the week, you know, that kind of thing. We don't get that anymore, so I kind of miss those days. But yeah, the girls, it's, you know, it's a different thing. It's a different thing being a parent to an older child, obviously. My relationship with them, I guess, is a little bit more, you know, I'm there for the comic relief, really. I think, in the main, that seems to be my job. So we have really good fun together. We have, you know, I still read a bedtime story to Poppy, and I probably read to,
yeah, that's so lovely.
And I think I read to Kitty and Ella till they were both, you know, so Kitty, every now and then still read to Kitty, really. You know, I remember reading with Ella when she was about 15. We read To Kill a Mockingbird, which is my favourite book of all time. So we read that, which is a real kind of rite of passage. I'm sorry, one of my headphones has just fallen out. It's a real rite of passage, I think, for me to read that book, in particular with the girls. So you still have those nice kind of father-daughter moments, and I guess the relationship just evolves, and you're just as close as you ever were, but it's just takes a slightly different form. But yeah, I would say it gets easier.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you saying that, because actually my next question was going to be, can you settle an age-old debate? Because I'm told by so many parents of teenagers that it's the hardest time, and I've got an 11-year-old, so she's kind of just on the cusp. Like, the hormones are just starting to kick in, and but with 2-3-year-olds, I'm just like, how can it get harder than this? And it kind of, when I hear parents of teenagers saying that that's the hardest stage, I'm like, I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to sell my children and join the circus. I'm done. Yeah, I can't do it.
I wonder how much you'd get for them, actually. I've never really thought about that. But no, I mean, you know what? It's totally, I mean, as I said right at the beginning, we've been very lucky. Our girls have not been, they've not been troublesome children. They're very kind of, they're quite sensible kids, to be honest. Sensible kids, I guess, is what you kind of want. The biggest trouble we've had with all three girls, actually, is friendship issues as they've got older. There's this thing that seems to happen where, you know, they're all quite, you know, they've all got quite a wide circle of friends, but they pair off sometimes, or they go into threes, and then one of them will always be left out. And so we've had quite a few issues with friendship groups, and you know, so-and-so's not speaking to me, and blah blah blah, and this blah, blah, and you kind of like, you learn to be, you learn to be like quite political in those kind of situations, and to try and say the right thing, and be encouraging, and blah blah blah. But that's by far the biggest problem we've had with the teens, and I know lots of people have it far harder than us. So I think maybe we've been quite lucky. But yeah, as I said, it's a walk in the park compared to kind of like, you know, trying to go to Brent Cross with two young children. I mean, let alone twins. I mean, crikey, I take my hat off to you. Well, I don't, but I would do. Yeah.
I find it so interesting hearing you say as well that you still read to your kids, and obviously, the types of books that you're reading is progressing and changing and becoming more, I guess, grown up as they get older. Why is that so important to you? So, a lot of parents, I think it's probably fair to say, almost feel like when their kids get to a certain age, like so with us, when my eldest got to about maybe 7 or 8 and she was able to read on her own, I felt like, well, I don't need to read to her anymore because she can read. And it almost felt like a tick, like achievement. Yes, she can, she can read on her own. She doesn't need us to read to her. So why is it important to you that you still do that?
Well, for a start, it is a tick if she's happy to go off and read on her own. The whole, I was the World Book Day illustrator for 3 years, and our whole ethos, the thing we are really trying to get kids to do is read for pleasure. So read because they want to, not because they have to. Because statistically, it's proven, that kids that read for pleasure, they achieve much more in their lives, all that kind of thing. And it really is true. It's a real achievement to have a child that is a reader. It's the single biggest indicator of likely success in life, reading. Kids who read for pleasure, it really is. That's fact. So big tick, big pat on the back for you. That is great. But in terms of reading with your child, I mean, I don't know. It's something that I really enjoy. It was a real highlight of my day at the end of the day to go and have that quiet time, one-on-one time with one of your children. So Ali and I, my wife and I, one of us would read to one child and the other would read to the other because, they're 3 years apart. So you're reading slightly different books with them. Now we can read the same books to them, actually. And the last few years we have been able to do that. But that one-on-one time, I think, is so important when you have a household with more than one child in it, because it doesn't happen very often. Usually you are talking to them as a group around the dinner table, or when you're out visiting, your nice country house or whatever. You're kind of all of you together in a group. So that one-on-one time is super, super important, I think. And the children, they really appreciate it, and they really look forward to it too. So it's something that I really like doing. To go on that journey with children as they learn to read, as they learn to become independent readers, kids who read for pleasure, is a lovely thing. You can literally witness them as they build their vocabulary, develop their language and grammar skills. Even when you're reading really to really, really young children, when they don't necessarily understand every word that you're reading to them, they can still infer meaning from the context, and it really, really does help grow those brains. Apart from that, read the book. Depending on the books you read, it can expose them to a wealth of places and characters and social situations that can really help to stimulate their personal and their social development. I think exposing them to places that they might not experience otherwise. Through their imaginations is really a really, really important thing to do, and it helps them develop that natural desire to learn, I guess. If they can't wait to turn the page in the Harry Potter book to find out what happens to, I don't know, who the Half-Blood Prince is. It's the same process that their brains go through when they're sitting in school learning about plate tectonics, or whatever it is. There's a real direct correlation there. So I think to be able to go on that journey with your children is a real privilege, and it's a really, really lovely thing to do. So I don't really want it to stop. And when it did stop with the old girls, there's a sadness there. I feel like there's something missing. So I would encourage every parent to read with their children. And I know it's hard, and I know it's hard to make the time to do it. And when you don't need to do it anymore, it is a relief, especially in a busy household. Life is so busy, isn't it? But for me, it's something that I always try to prioritise.
Now, you have written a lot of books yourself, but one of my favourite things that you've done so far in your career is the packed lunch Post-its.
Oh, yeah.
For anyone who is unfamiliar with them, can you explain what they were? Because you're not still doing them, are you?
I'm not still doing them. No. So what happened was, my youngest, Poppy, when she, when they go to nursery, they go to nursery just for the mornings, first of all. And then when they start in reception, at our school anyway, they kind of phased them into a full day. So I think they did I think they did a week of like, going in from 9 till 11 or something, and then the next week they would stay for lunch, and that was the big thing, staying for lunch, and then the following week they would stay for the whole day. So they eased them into the full school day. And Poppy, all of my children are quite, they're kind of they're all homebodies. They like being at home. They kind of are quite reluctant to go on sleepovers until much later. They're very happy for their friends to come to our house, but and the school trips, residential trips, and that's always quite a big deal with our kids. So I don't know whether it's something we're doing as parents to make them want to kind of stay at home all the time.
It means they're nice and secure, Rob. It means that you're doing the right thing. That's what all the child psychologists say, isn't it?
Is that what it is?
They're really happy at home and they're secure.
Okay.
So you're doing a good job.
We're good parents. That's good to know. But Poppy was really nervous about staying at school for her lunch. So it was our childminder actually that suggested it. She said, why don't you just draw a little picture on a post-it note and hide it in her lunchbox, so that when she gets to school, opens her lunchbox, there's a little message from Dad saying hello, little drawing, and you'll cheer her up at lunchtime. So I thought, it's a brilliant idea. I'll do it on the first day. Did the little drawing. She came home that night and said, I love the drawing. What are you gonna draw tomorrow? And I was like, I thought this was a one-time only gig. Anyway, did one the next day, then the next day, then the next day, and I ended up doing one for her every single day that she was at primary school. So that was about 2,000 drawings, something like that. And it sort of just it grew and grew, because she started showing it to her friends and then started showing it to some of the teachers, and suddenly, before I knew it, there was all these people looking at this drawing. So I the first few I did were like, Mr. Men, really quick kind of stick drawings that I'd do on the way to school, walking up the road. And then suddenly I thought I need to up my game now. And so I started putting a bit more effort in, and then at some point, a couple of years in, it just went viral online, and I was on, I think it was Ashton Kutcher tweeted about it or something on his blog, and it just went crazy, and I suddenly found myself like on ABC News in the States, and on all these, it was very weird talking about all this stuff, and it just went mad. I was in all the newspapers over here, so I thought, right, I really got to up my game now. So I'd do the drawings the night before, and the tricky thing was trying to think of something to draw every day, because you name a kid's character, I've done it about 4 times, so I started, I'd get Kitty, my middle daughter, I'd get her to work out her top 100 children's characters full time, and I'd do a little chart rundown that would last for maybe a term, and then you've got to think of something else to do. So at one point I did the great artists. So I found myself, drawing the Mona Lisa, or, a nice Klimt portrait or something the night before. It's crazy. But she really...
I mean, that's a lot of pressure, right? If her friends were looking forward to seeing, and the teachers were like asking, what's today's packed lunch post-it?
Well, exactly.
That's a lot of pressure.
It was, and... the annoying thing was sometimes Poppy would come home and I'd say, did you, I was particularly proud of the drawing that I'd done. So I'd say, did you like your drawing? And she'd be like, yeah, what was it again? And I'm like, are you kidding me? That took me 2 hours. I was like, but no.
It was a masterpiece.
It's always the way with children, isn't it? They sort of, they take anything you do for granted after a while. But I think now I've got this huge box of these 2,000 post-it notes, and we did an exhibition a few years ago. So I've got loads of them framed up. And when you see them all together like that, it's quite the thing. It's quite, it's sort of a bit of a document of my madness, weirdly. It's like, watch all this, you see all these drawings, it's quite incredible. But the main thing, the thing that I really loved about it is, again, it's that thing, that connection between dad and daughter. It's quite an intimate thing, and it was I guess it was a kind of conduit. It was a kind of like a through line for me to have like a moment with my daughter, even when I wasn't there. And I think it may, it's just another one of those little threads that kind of pulls you closer together, and I really like that, and I think it's something that both of us will always look back on really fondly. And one day I thought of picturing the future wherever Poppy's living when she's 30 years old, and she's got all these pictures of the post-it notes up on the wall. It'd be a nice thing for her to look back on. So it's a nice thing to do.
I think it's lovely. Now, a lot of people will know you best for your Draw with Rob on social media and YouTube. I think it's safe to say that you were one of those saviours of lockdown. You swooped in at a moment where a nation of parents were panicking because the schools were closing and we were all being told to stay at home. It was incredible. But I want to know, how much of that was you genuinely having a desire to help parents, and how much of it was a cynical ploy for fame and fortune?
Well, lots of people have asked me this, and I swear I'm going to say the thing I used to say as a child all the time. I swear on my life that I did it genuinely just because I was thinking of the truth is, I was thinking of the parents. I was sitting there on the sofa on the Sunday with Ali, my wife. We watched the news and it said, right, they're going to close schools in the next week or so. They're going to close the schools. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, there's going to be all these parents stuck at home with their children, looking for things for their kids to do, particularly the little ones, the 4 and the 5-year-olds. And I know what it's like, as I said, 3 daughters. It's hard to keep them entertained during the school holidays. And I thought, not only are they going to be not at school, they're going to be stuck in the house. We weren't allowed to, you're not really allowed to go out. So I thought, well, I can help here. I can do the drawing thing that I do at all my live events. I'd even done some Draw with Rob videos, believe it or not, back in 2017. I think I'd just done a couple, stuck them up online, and not really, just as a little thing when a book came out. I think I did a few. So I thought, I'll just do that again. I'll set up the camera and I'll record myself drawing a few of my characters, stick them up online. Hopefully it will give the parents a bit of respite, for a couple of hours a week, and that is genuinely what I thought. Now, I could not have predicted what happened, because literally that was the Sunday night. I was watching the news. On the Monday, I recorded the first video, took a couple of takes just to get the tone right. There's a few things I knew I had to, there's a few ways that I thought I can do this and make it work. I didn't want to make myself front and center. I just wanted to put the camera down, record my hands doing the drawing. I just wanted to cut to the chase, 20-minute videos, make it nice and kind of simple and straightforward and no messing around. Took me a couple of goes just to get the tone right. I'm good at talking to kids anyway, because that's what I do for a living. I go out on the road and I do my live shows all over the country and all over the world. And so that was okay. It took me a couple of goes to get the video right. I put it up on YouTube on the Tuesday. Recorded it on the Monday. Put it up on the Tuesday. And then on the Wednesday, I was on news at 10. On that
no.
It was mad. The amount of people, I just put it up and it just instantly went kind of crazy, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't really see it coming. And I guess it was just one of those things where it's the perfect thing to do at the perfect time, and it just captured it just I think Jamie Oliver picked up on it immediately and retweeted it, and I think that was the key, because he's got millions of followers, and suddenly hundreds and thousands of people started watching this video, and it's just one of those things. And then suddenly
it's that classic thing though, isn't it, where they say that the best inventors or business entrepreneurs, they think of a solution, like a genuine solution to a genuine problem. And that's what you were doing. You were there was this very sudden and very present problem that all over the country families were having, and that doesn't happen very often, right, in life. It's not It's not often that everyone is having that same fear and that same panic. And there was you going, ta-da, here I am to help.
I guess so. But it was quite, it's even now when I think back to it, it's 2 years now since we put that first video up, and even now it's like a dream. It's like a surreal thing when it happened, because I just can't. It's very hard. It's very hard to explain. But it was lovely, and also in that time at the beginning, especially, it was so angst-ridden, wasn't it? It was so uncertain, and the news on the TV was all bad news. It was all like, oh no, this is happening, blah blah. And my social media feed suddenly became this kind of like this river of joy, this sort of oasis in this desert of these pictures of these lovely smiley kids proudly holding up their drawings of aliens and sausage dogs, and so I think even people without children, they gravitated towards it because it was something happy to look at, and then lots of grown-ups started drawing with me as well, people who didn't have children, and they started re-engaging with this side of themselves that they hadn't really come into contact with since they left school. I haven't picked up a pencil since I was 10 years old, and I'm really enjoying just drawing pictures. It's because drawing is like for me anyway, it's almost like a meditative thing. When I draw, you sort of turn off one part of your brain. When I'm drawing, I can listen to podcasts, I can listen to music, I can do all that kind of thing, and I just sort of do the drawing almost subconsciously. And I do think it's really good for for mindfulness, your well-being, for your mental health. It's quite a therapeutic thing, and I think people realise that, and realise that drawing can help with aspects of your everyday life, improving focus and lengthening your attention span, problem solving. And most importantly, I think for the parents of the children, again, it comes back to that thing of doing something with your children. Sitting there at the kitchen table, drawing a picture with me on your iPad telling you how to do it with your children was something that really brought families together, because in everyday life you're out at work, you're on your laptop, you're blah blah blah, but this, parents were sitting down, they had the time to sit down and do something with their children. At the end they'd both have a drawing to stick up on the fridge, and it was a lovely thing. It made the children feel valued as part of that family unit as well. So I think all of those things, which I could never have predicted would come out of it, did come out of it. And they taught me a lot about the benefits of drawing and spending time with your children as well. So I feel very lucky and privileged that what happened. And it's you're right, there have been kind of residual benefits to my career. Suddenly I'm much better known than I was before, and all that kind of thing. But it's, when I go to my events now, I have these huge queues of kids after my event who come up to see me and show me their big folders full of the drawings. They've done every single drawing, and I'll say, oh, did you do the giraffe? And they'll say, oh yeah, that was video number 31. And I'm like, oh my, you know what kids are like. It's like they know everything about, and they know everything about my life, because I guess while I'm doing these drawings, I'm sort of saying, oh yeah, I took Ringo out for a walk, and they're like, how's Ringo? And I'm like, oh my God, how do you, it's like that weird thing. So it's kind of created this sort of club. If you were in the Draw with Rob club, you're kind of, we sort of all had this shared experience together. And again, at a time when everyone was isolated and separate, it was something that brought us together, which was a lovely thing.
It was that sense of belonging, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So lovely. Can I just say, on behalf of a nation of parents, I feel like you, Joe Wicks and BBC Bite Size were the ones that kept us all going. So a heartfelt thank you
thanks.
On behalf of the nation.
I bumped into Joe. I did an event.
Did you?
Yeah, Joe and I were both on at the Bath Festival last year in September, and so I bumped into him in the green room, and it was lovely. He's such a nice guy. I don't know if you've ever met him, but he's the nicest chap. He's exactly like he is on as he comes across on his videos and everything. And we were saying, oh yeah, we should be on staff at the local school. We were the nation's teachers, and it was a lovely thing. Yeah, because people would do PE with Joe and then go straight on to Draw with Rob. So we were doing a bit of babysitting for everybody.
Never mind getting a job at the local school. I think you guys need knighthoods. I mean, I think that's where really it should have gone. That's where it should have ended up. Let's be honest. Now, I want to know which is your favourite picture book that you've done. So I've got a special place in my heart for Blown Away, which was your first, because I just read that endlessly to my eldest when she was little. I think she was probably about 4 when it came out. But also, I love Show and Tell. It feels like it's just really satisfying to read. Sometimes when you're reading picture books, I mean, you must know this, you write them, but sometimes you'll read one particular one and it just has that rhythm that just feels very satisfying. But I want to know, which is your favourite?
Well, it's hard to look past Blown Away, because that was, as you said, it was my first book, and it took me a long time to get published. At the time that I first had to go at it, I was the art director on the Observer magazine, and I was using everything in my arsenal. Every email I sent out to publishers was coming from that address. Look what my job is. Give me a chance. But it doesn't quite. I didn't realise how competitive the whole kids book thing was. It's really, it seems to me like everyone who's ever picked up a pen or a pencil wants to illustrate and write a children's book at some point. So it was like really, really hard to get published.
So were you rejected by, you always hear about famous, successful writers and illustrators saying, I was rejected by, 20 publishers before I finally got a deal. It's
rejection it's not quite like that. It doesn't quite work like that. I mean, the path that you take to publication is this. Usually you get an agent, first of all. Can be very hard to get an agent, even get an agent to represent you. But I got an agent straight away. So that, one of the biggest hurdles I got over straight away. And actually I got in the room with pretty much all the big publishers in London, showing them my books, and they all of them liked what I'd done. So I knew that I could do it. I knew that sometimes you just, you write something and you just think this could be miles wide of the mark. I just don't know, but it wasn't. I was in the right kind of wheelhouse, and so I knew I could do it. But I did. Lots of people passed on the first few books. The first book that I took out actually was the book that became my 5th picture book, which is called Kevin, which is all about a little boy who has an imaginary friend that whenever he's in trouble, he blames everything on this imaginary friend. So then the roles are reversed and he finds himself in the imaginary friend's world, and suddenly he's the imaginary friend, and he kind of learns a lesson that way. And that's what my own daughter, she didn't go into the imaginary world, but she had an imaginary friend. So that was my first book that I took around, and lots of people passed on that. Lots of people, pretty much all the publishers. No, I worked it up. The thing is, everything takes so long. So I remember working on that book for about 2 years with a couple of publishers, and I couldn't quite get it over the line. So then what happened was I changed agent, and my new agent said, just when you're going out with the book, just take a portfolio of children's book staples, like just a drawing of some dinosaurs, a pirate scene, all these kind of space
so they can see the variety of what
exactly.
You can do.
And that was the genius move on her part, because I'd just done a page full of animals, and two or three of the publishers saw I'd done a little penguin family, and for some reason they zeroed in on these penguins, and I can't even remember drawing these penguins. They're just another part of the drawing, and they just said, can you come up with a story for the penguins? And I had another story I was working on about some children flying a kite and getting blown away on a very windy day, and I just sort of transposed penguins into this story, which made perfect sense because penguins can't fly, and I was getting all this kind of stuff. And it was just one of those moments where I put them into the story, did a few illustrations, went back to see the publishers who I'd been talking to for 4 years by this point, and they instantly offered me, all of them came in offering me deals. And so I sort of ended up, from 4 or 5 years of trying to get published, I ended up having my pick of the publishers. And I went with HarperCollins because they published some of my favourite kids' book authors, and I really liked the team. And from then on, there was no looking back really, because Blown Away won the Waterstones Children's Book Prize, which was another huge stroke of good fortune, because lots of people write really good books or illustrate really good books, but you need that moment of luck where it lands on the right person's desk at the right time, and you get one of these awards, or you get one of these things that's going to put your book kind of front and centre. And that's what happened to me. And so that was my career off to this flying start, and suddenly I was away. So to answer your question, it's hard to look past Blown Away because I'm so... I'm really talking for ages, aren't I? I hope your editing skills are good.
It's all good. I mean, that's kind of the point of a podcast, Rob, is the talking. So it's all good. I
guess so. So Blown Away, I would say, is probably my favourite. But I'm also fond of... Odd Dog Out is the one that I wrote, which is about a dog who doesn't fit in with the other dogs. And throughout the course of the book, the message is she realises that actually... the best thing you can be is yourself. You don't need to follow the crowd, blaze your own trail. And that seems to have really struck a chord with readers and with parents as well. And I'd say it's my most popular picture book. But I am fond of show and tell too. I like that escalation, the ridiculous kind of escalation. It's really fun. That was a really fun one to write and illustrate. So yeah. It's hard though. It's hard choosing your favourite book because it's like choosing your favourite child. It really is.
I can definitely choose a favourite child.
I can too, but we're not allowed to say, are we? But
no.
But it is a bit like that.
I'm guessing that another big moment was having your stories read on CBeebies Bedtime Story. I mean, I got very excited when I saw that Tom Hardy was doing show and tell. But actually, I've got a bit of a confession to make because I watched Tom Hardy.
He didn't do show and tell.
Oh, did he not do show and tell?
He did Odd Dog Out. Rick Astley did show and tell.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. I'm getting confused.
And he did two. Tom Hardy's done two. He's done two of my books. He did Odd Dog Out, and he did the sequel, which is called An Odd Dog Christmas. So I've had double. Right. So Tom Hardy.
That was it. It was quite recently that he did Odd Dog Christmas, wasn't it? Yeah. And I watched him doing Odd Dog Christmas, and I was really excited. And yeah, my confession is that I sat there thinking, I could do it better than him, because this is really embarrassing, when I'm reading my kids' bedtime stories, I like to pretend that I'm reading CBeebies Bedtime Stories, and I think I'm pretty good at it.
I'm sure you are very good at it. I mean, I think I've had five or six of my books read on CBeebies Bedtime Stories, and some people read it better than others. Let's just say that some people kind of get because my books are all, my picture books anyway, are all in rhyme, and so, you know, you have to read it, you know, properly. You have to sing it almost, you know, and some people are better at it than others. I actually think Tom is very good at it. Tom, you see, I call him Tom now. We're practically mates.
Yeah, you and Tom,
you and Tommy, Tomo, and he does a pretty good job. But that being said, I'm sure you could do a better job. Maybe one day.
I'm just saying, you know, next time that it comes up, and you're having that conversation with the BBC, if you want to put my name forward, okay. I haven't got a problem with that. I will consider it, and I'll see if I've got time in my diary.
Okay,
we'll see.
Okay, noted.
That aside, what has been the moment in your career where you've thought, oh my goodness, this is it, I've made it? Like, what's been the kind of the pinnacle moment?
I don't know if you ever have that I've made it feeling. I mean, it's quite a strange existence. You know, I'd worked on, as you did, you know, we worked on magazines and newspapers, and you're part of a team. And suddenly when you find yourself out on your own, working for yourself, I mean, I know I've got a team, I've got a brilliant team at my publishers, and I've got my agent and my publicist and all that kind of thing. But essentially you're on your own. You know, I sit here in my studio where I'm sitting now, and I'm writing or I'm drawing pictures all day long on my own with just Ringo the dog for company. And it's quite a role. I find you have a real roller coaster of emotions, and kind of in terms of your confidence as well. You know, it only takes, I don't know, seeing that something else has happened to one of my peers, you know, and on Twitter or something that you're a bit jealous of, and you're suddenly like, I'm rubbish, I can't do this. So it's a kind of like, I mean, I don't know, my confidence is always kind of quite fragile, I think. That being said, I do know that I'm in a very lucky position to be able to do this full time for my job. I know lots and lots of really talented writers and illustrators who, you know, have this is what they do at the weekends and in the evenings, because it's very hard to make a living doing it. You know, not many people get to do that, and I'm very lucky that I can. So yeah, I get the Tom Hardy moment that he read Odd Dog Out. That was the first one on CBeebies. That was a big moment, and I was just so happy to be published. I was so happy to see my book in the window of a bookshop or on the library shelf, or go into the first school event that I did, when you see all these kids, when you're reading the stories, they're kind of mouthing the words along with you because they've read it so often. You know, that kind of thing that's a really, really lovely moment. So the truth is, I have lots of pinch me and make sure I'm not dreaming moments. I'm so lucky to be doing this job. It's a real dream come true for me to be doing this job. So I feel very, very lucky every single day. And I've written a novel now, so I'm talking to older kids now. This kind of a Harry Potter age book that I've written that came out last September, and I now talk to a different audience, and to see them respond to the book in a different way to the way the real littlies respond to my picture books is a lovely thing too. Because again, writing a chapter book is not something I ever really thought that I could do or I would do, and so to not only to do it, to get it published, but to see children enjoying the book is an amazing moment. So I just feel very lucky.
What is it like on World Book Day? When you see, so you mentioned you've done this middle grade book for older kids, which is Peanut Jones and the Illustrated City. What was it like on World Book Day, seeing kids going into school dressed up as Peanut Jones or other characters of yours?
It's amazing. I mean, that is a moment. I think any children's author or illustrator that you speak to, it's a real dream come true when they see a child dressed as one of their characters. And it's been happening to me for a long time now. My first book came out 7 or 8 years ago, so every year I've had kids dressed up as Penguin Blue or Odd Dog Out. But this year was crazy. The amount of Peanut Joneses that I saw was unbelievable. I mean, I pulled a load of them together and made a little video and that was just a fraction of them. So
sales of denim dungaree shorts went sky high before World Book Day. Stripy tights.
I know. I think when I was designing Peanut, the character, I think I sort of had half an eye on the World Book Day costume. I was thinking, well, stripy tights.
Make it easy.
Make it easy for the kids. You don't have to go out and spend a fortune on a witch's outfit or whatever it is. You can make this kind of thing from home. But it was lovely to see. The best thing though, I get people dressing up as me. now. That is the weirdest
No.
thing. Yeah, I reckon I had 5 or 10 or something Robs. So, and it's hilarious. So basically, it's a fairly easy costume. You get a cap, get a pair of glasses, and they all seem to draw like this sort of grey silver stubble. And so it's like, oh yeah, I am.
It's like holding a mirror up to
I
you.
know, it really is. It's like, I am really old, aren't they? But these kids all dressing up as me, it's hilarious with their stripy tops and their cardigans, I'm like, oh yeah, I do wear the same clothes all the time. You're totally right. But that's very surreal when they actually dress up as you. But it's such a compliment. It makes you feel very humbled that they could have chosen any character or anything in the world, and they've chosen one of your characters. It's a lovely thing to see. I love it.
Wonderful. Rob, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been so wonderful to talk to you. Peanut Jones and the Illustrated City is out in paperback now, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And there are an abundance of Draw with Rob books and picture books available to buy. But where can we find you online to hear more from you?
You can find me, I'm on all the social medias. I'm at Rob Biddulph on Twitter. I'm at Biddulph on Instagram, because there's another Rob Biddulph who took Rob Biddulph. Can't believe it. I know, you wouldn't think there would be, would you? But there is. And I'm on, you can find me on Facebook, Rob Biddulph Author on Facebook, and my YouTube videos, just do a search for Draw with Rob or Rob Biddulph. Rob Biddulph, what's my name? Rob Biddulph, that's right. You can find me, anywhere. My website, robbiddulph.com. I'm not hard to find, to be honest.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's been brilliant chatting to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Alison. It's lovely to have spoken to you today.